Is this the worst WCW pay-per-view ever? WCW New Blood Rising 2000. Myself and NX Steve is in-house for you, and we will be conducting this podcast under Canadian rules. How are you doing, NX Steve? Welcome to the show. And what were your initial overall thoughts of New Blood Rising 2000?
The video package for this show sums it up. Like, it plays, and I can hear who the matches are, but that opening video package, I could not tell you what was going on because it was the worst produced video package I think I've ever seen for a show, and it kind of sets the bar for the rest of it.
It really does. Yeah, to be fair, for those that are looking for a positive review, you may want to switch off now. This is not probably the place to be. However, I don't think everything is as bad if you go back in history.
Dude,
but there is some.
I love some of this.
Probably for the wrong reasons. Just to go through some of the matches that we're going to be talking about here. We mentioned Canadian rules already. Lance Storm and Mike Awesome. We've got Judy Bagwell on a forklift, ladies and gentlemen. Buff Bagwell versus Positively Kanyon, of course, that classic, which is still talked about to this day. We have Goldberg. Will he be in the freeway? Will he not? With Kevin Nash and Scott Steiner. Of course, blurring the lines of reality and, well, simply what the fuck is going on, really, with those three in the triple threat match. Of course, we have Booker T and Jeff Jarrett as well as the main event for the WCW Championship. But, yeah, this is going to be a fun one to go through. Just to give a bit of background detail, this took place on August the 13th, which is the same date we're recording today, so 24 years ago in the year 2000. This was actually filmed in Vancouver, British Columbia, in the Pacific Coliseum, an attendance of 6,614, and the tagline is, "Our time is now." Of course, New Blood Rising. New Blood was the theme in WCW around that period. Of course, that was the group trying to take out the Millionaires Club, all the new stars trying to take over the old guard of WCW. NX Steve, you mentioned about the video package. Absolute, yeah, I'm going to say it's an absolute shit show. That's pretty much what it was. It was not a good sign to start off the evening.
If you was going back to watch this, and if you didn't know the voices of who these people were, genuinely, you'd have just been like, I think at one point I made out the word Goldberg, and I just don't know what the rest of it was. I think I saw a guitar shot from maybe Jeff Jarrett at one point. But dude, it's terrific. Like, whatever filter they used, like, they just must have made it super, super grainy because you can't see anything.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not good. It's not, just to sum it up, it's not good, and this doesn't make a lot of sense either. But one thing that didn't make much sense throughout the evening either was the commentary trio of Tony Schiavone, Scott Hudson, and Mark Madden as well. Not my favorite Madden, if we're going to be brutally honest, when it comes to commentary. One of my least favorite commentators of all time. No offense, just. I think the thing is he was supposed to be controversial for controversial sakes back in the times. Obviously, you know, he had Jerry Lawler sort of screaming the lines back in the day for WWE, so Mark Madden had to take it the extra line further. And if it was far enough when Jerry Lawler did it, Mark Madden just took it that one step too far.
Oh, yes, definitely. When we get down to the one and only women's match on the card, he soon tries to stamp his mark on commentating history.
Absolutely, and not for the right reasons either. Shout out to Pierre in the house. Hope you are doing well, and Anthony as well. Hope you're doing well. How would we make this a more successful pay-per-view? Anthony, we'll go through the bad and we'll try and make it good as we go along. And if I can't do a great job of that as we're going along, I'll give you a little bit of a brief towards the end of the video. C Nation Dog is in house as well. Judy Bagwell on a forklift match. That's right, you'll hear. You will see some clips as well from this as well. All of this booking in this show made the guy for the podcast get the Mask of the White Six members was a bad decision. Mr. Vince Russo. There says a comment there coming. Worst book of all time. I don't know about worst book of all time, but certainly in this period it wasn't pretty. But I'll tell you what,
if someone doesn't control Vince, he just does anything he wants. I think someone has to manage Vince. He wasn't that bad when he was in WWE.
No, he had the filter. I think that's the difference, like you said there. And obviously, when it comes to WCW, it comes a bit different. But we're going to try and get through some of these matches. Like I say, we will show you some of the bits and bobs that happen in the matches to the best we can. And we're kicking off with one of my guilty pleasures, Free Counts. Obviously, the boy band. Listening to Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and Britney Spears, Kinda Cute. Listening to TRL, all that sort of stuff. They had Tank Abbott, the MMA fighter, who was the super fan of Free Count as well, going against the Jung Dragons. Of course, this was in a ladder match. So pretty much the stipulation hanging above the ring, there was a gold record, which was meant to be Free Count single, and there was a recording contract. And of course, if the Jung Dragons were to get that, then Free Count would no longer be able to have a recording deal. So therefore, they couldn't record any more music moving forward. So that was pretty much the stipulations with this. With the Jung Dragons, also, you had Hayashi, you had Jimmy Wang Yang, of course, later on, and Jamie Noble, Jamie's son, under the mask as well, just for those keeping score at home. Nick, Steve, I can see already you've got something in your mind there. What would you like to share with us?
What was the point in hanging the gold record above the ring then? That's the bit I didn't get, because it has no effect on the outcome of this match whatsoever. And I'm like I was expecting maybe, I don't know, like obviously, recently we've just had 2 tag team titles in a ladder match in the same stipulation. I thought, oh, maybe that has a stipulation, but for some reason they just decided to hang that above the ring for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to think back really that far, really. But what I can say is that the recording, both things needed to come off. So basically, if you want to link it to 2024, look at WrestleMania this past year with the tag team titles. 2 sets of straps were hanging above the ring. The match didn't stop when the first one was pulled. Both need to be pulled down. So it's kind of the same here. The gold record was one. Like you say, makes no real difference here. I guess you just get to keep it. I guess that's the gist. Of course, there is a little bit of a funky twist. It is WCW after all when it comes to this match. But you had to get both things off of there. But what I quite liked, there were some really good spots in this opening match, to be honest. Obviously, Free Count and the Dragons getting, pretty much the ladders early doors here. All the Dragons were stacked into the corner. Shannon Moore was thrown on top of them. There was a springboard doomsday device from both teams on either side of the ring with a ladder perfectly symmetricalized in the center of the ring, which was really cool to see. Jamie's son, or aka Jamie Noble, jumping off the top of the ladder to everyone on the floor. And we get to our first spot of the match. Obviously, you mentioned it's interesting because of the fact that it doesn't end the match, but we do actually get to see the Jung Dragons get the first part here. This is them going there getting, this is Jamie's son getting that gold record there. But of course, very quickly, he loses it. And of course, Superfan Tank Abbott is the first one to get hold of it. Obviously, as we get towards the close of the match, though, we see Tank Abbott, of course, make a big impact once again. As you can see here, he pushes both teams off of the ladder. I'm not quite sure why he does this, but at least Evan Karagias able to get the contract, which is a great celebration. Look at those dance moves, by the way, from Tank Abbott. I don't know. Have you got dance moves like Tank?
I mean, if you want dad moves, I can give you dad dance moves, but that's even worse than dad dance moves. That's like someone who was born with no feet, let alone 2 left feet.
Yeah, and he shook the arms. That's all he needed to. Well, I mean, wouldn't he shake the arms? Because he's the one that has the recording contract afterwards and the gold record, and he walks out on both of them. And Freak Out look at one another going, hang on, he's walking away with our stuff here. And literally, they just end up dancing anyway because they don't really care. They're a boy band, so they're not meant to have brain cells, I guess. But what were your overall thoughts with that opening match then with Freak Out and the Jung Dragons?
Like, when I saw the intro and the entrance for Freak Out, I was like, I seldomly remember this, and this is horrific. And I was like, honestly, at the start, I was like, I can't believe I've actually agreed to watch this show because the entrance is bad enough. But then the match starts, and do you know what? The match actually turns out to be a bit of a banger. And I was like, they're doing spots that I don't see people doing at all nowadays. Like, I'm telling you now, guys want to go back and watch this match because these guys are pulling out spots that you like. I'm sure at one point someone hits a neck breaker off a ladder halfway up, and like, there's a point where Shannon Moore suicides over the top rope into a ladder to catapult it into 2 other guys, and I'm like, what's going on with this? They're like throwing their bodies in it. And then my favourite moment, it just has to be obviously when Evan Karagias is punching Hayashi in the dick when he's halfway up the ladder, and he's literally just punching. I'm like, well, what's going on with this? Why is he just genuinely punching a man in the groin for no reason whatsoever? And I was like, that is absolutely great. And yeah, I mean, aside from the finish, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, there was loads of unique spots. That's genuinely stuff that I've never seen before. And I've seen a lot of ladder matches. But then you see Abbott get hold of the gold record, and then he almost sabotages both teams, like in the clip you just seen. And then like they get the contract, and then he naffs off, and like, what's happening here? There's no sort of there's no organization, no story, no. It's just he's like, and you said to me before we started doing this that this guy's a former like MMA fighter, and I'm like, why is he dancing like a prat then in front of 6,000 people? This doesn't make sense. I honestly don't get it. It was very strange, but yeah, dude, I thoroughly enjoyed the opening match.
I mean, Tank Abbott was supposed to be this dude that was like a badass when he came into WWE. He was going to legitimize it, be the MMA fighter. I suppose for those that like the WWE fans, they were like, it's like the Ken Shamrock, it's coming at the time. He's going to sort of brutalize everyone. He was destroying people left, right, and center. Then all of a sudden, I think they just kind of gave up on his booking. He wasn't getting over. He wasn't very good in the ring, if we're being brutally fair as well. So I kind of think they just went, right, okay, we're going to just move away from this, and we're going to just stick him as a super fan for Free Camp, because it is literally, it is entertaining. MMA fighter loves boy band. It does have a bit of charm to it as well. I can see where it goes from, and to be honest, really, it does play later on into the story, because I do vaguely remember how this follows out. I suppose that he is the one that pretty much turns on Free Count at the end of the day, because he's the one that wants he sees himself as the star and the recording artist, but he doesn't long after this get the boot from WCW. He's actually only there for about another 4 to 6 weeks after this, so it does feel a bit of a closing time. But what I would say is that I agree with you. This is a really fun opening match. I actually recommend people, if they've not seen this match, to go and watch it, because of the fact that, I mean, it's the first match of the show, so it's not hard to find if you actually type in the search engine to go and see this on Peacock on the network. But secondly, like, there's some creative spots on this one, and it's just 6 young dudes that just at the time they were always someone you could rely on in
trying to make a name for themselves.
They were trying to make them, but obviously in a time where WCW was kind of falling on its arse, you had these cruiserweights that came in that wanted to give everything, and it's no surprise that WWE would end up hiring like 5 out of the 6 of them once WCW was brought out. So all hard-working, good match. Bit of a weird finish, like you say, the fact that Tank would throw both guys off the ladder, but I guess he didn't have time to think. The right result came at the end anyway, but Free Count are your victors.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a very good match. It was just, there's like I said, the most important thing for me that I think from this is that, again, so many unique spots. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is a power slam at one point. I think it's Courageous power slams Hayashi on a ladder, and it almost goes horrifically wrong because he doesn't rotate enough, but then it pulls off. But it was like, this is like first match of the night, and I'm like, oh my god, am I expecting more of this throughout? But yeah, aside from that one spot, just thoroughly entertaining.
Absolutely. What would be your star rating for this match?
I went 3.25. Like I said, apart from the weird finish, I thought it was just highly entertaining from start to end.
I'm going to share your sentiment with 3.25, because I also found this entertaining. It's going to be hard to find a match that's going to top that rating throughout the rest of this show, if we're going to be really honest. But we're going to...
You and me have obviously watched a different show.
I know what he's talking about, ladies and gents, already. We'll get there. We will get there. But for those that are fans of Dave Meltzer and like to know his star ratings, because it's one guy's opinion, but it does hold some weight with a number of people. So we will bring out for you. The match was 11 minutes and 32 seconds, and Dave Meltzer has given this 8 3-star rating. So Big Dave was actually fairly happy with this one as well, which is good to see. I'm
interested to see what Dave rates the rest of this card, because some of this sucks, absolutely stinks, and it's not a bad start if we're almost on the same level as Dave.
It's not a bad start, but I know it's going to take a big nosedive from his ratings very, very soon. CD, do my best to always try and make it as good for everyone as possible. Trying this out, if it's something that does work, we'll look to try and implement it going forward. Pierre does say the ending of the winner of this match made no sense. Are we going to get the contract? And what about there's the others? The disc? Yeah, it was a bit weird, but it's WCW. It's 2000. So that's pretty much the answer we're going to have for you now, because we can't give you a better reason for it. CD says, not sure the exact number. Wasn't there like 18 WCW title changes in the year of 2000? Probably then that and more. It wouldn't surprise me. There was a lot of WCW title changes in the year of 2000. It was a hot potato, to say the very least. And of course, that is talking about the world title, which again, very, very true. Sid's asking, did we watch WCW back in the day? I did a little bit when I could, but it was always on the same time as WWE, and I was a WWE loyalist.
I used to catch it when they used to show it on a Saturday morning in the early 90s. Like, it was almost like it replaced World of Wrestling in the 90s. Then they stopped showing it, and then I used to catch bits of it because two of my mates were really into WCW because they had the channels that showed WCW, but I had WWE, so I was more of a WWE guy. But I knew of, obviously, a lot of the wrestlers and some of the stuff that went on.
Absolutely, indeed. And topic that's completely nothing to do with what we're talking about here today. But do you know what, Roger? I'll answer it. Yeah. Am I happy as a West Ham fan that Aaron Wan-Bissaka is there? He's happy that Man United sold him. I am happy that we have signed him. I'm very happy that we've got him. I think it should be a good little coup, hopefully. We'll have to wait and see as the season starts. But we'll move on in the meantime. But just before we do, Sid did say that WCW was on TNT in the UK. It was indeed. It was always head-to-head with Sky Sports WWE every single time, or WWF, if you want to call it back then. So, yeah, I mean, the one time I specifically remember picking WCW over WWE was when Goldberg defeated Hogan for the title in Georgia in '98. That's the only time I picked WCW over WWE. The rest of the time, it was always the World Wrestling Federation for me. But we'll move on in the meantime. And we're going to go and talk about then how the Filthy Animals were agreed to become the special guest referee for the tag team title match. Of course, they were going to get a title shot on Monday Nitro, so they wanted to be the referees for this match. And the Cat said, "What's in it for me?" Well, they're going to make sure that he wins the next match, which was against the Great Muta, which is the following contest that we will be discussing. Not too much really to say, really. It all comes down to the final few minutes where part of the Filthy Animals, the female Tyrus, comes out to ringside. Muta tries to get mist in the eyes of the Cat, but the ref tries to he does get the mist in the eyes of the Cat, sorry. Ref tries to keep Cat in the corner, tries to clean his eyes. When that's happening, Tyrus comes off the top rope, hitting Muta with a steel chair. And then that's when we get to our next clip of the match and how we can see how this one actually 1, 2, 3 there. What were your thoughts with this second match?
I mean, apart from the fact Great Muta no-sells the chair shot from Tigress when she comes off the top, and then he's instantly back up again, and then to win with the spin kick of everything, and I was like, this is the Great Muta of all people, and to beat him with a spin kick I feel is almost disrespectful. It was bad, but it was like, it was essentially 6 or 7 minutes of mat-based wrestling, which gives the crowd nothing to hype about, and there was nothing really of any stipulation on the line apart from the fact you've got these two going at each other, and it was like, meh, a match that really didn't need to be on this card. And I think, do you know what the thing I forgot to mention as well is how many times I had to Google who factions were on this place, because you would be like, Filthy Animals. Who are all these people? Not realizing that the one white guy in Filthy Animals is Disco Inferno, and I'm like, didn't even know that was him. Couldn't even tell without his platform shoes on, and do you know what I mean? His funky music. I was like, couldn't even tell it was him. Oh, and by the way, there is a lot of crap music in this show as well. Everyone seems to have terrible entrance music. Like the first 2 or 3 matches, I honestly thought half of them were clowns coming out. But yeah, just go back to this match. It's bad. It's bad.
WWE have dubbed some of the music on the WCW shows.
Oh, gotcha.
They were probably better, but WWE have dubbed quite a lot of them. So yeah, that can be why.
They used to illegally use stuff like Nirvana and stuff, didn't they, for certain people?
Indeed, yeah. Exactly. Perfectly with Kanyon, because Kanyon would have used that for his entrance. So they had the actual old DDP, what they've remixed into it to be a part of it. But yes, just to answer a couple of the comments coming in quickly. The Cat, really? Yeah, really. It happened. The Cat beating Great Muta. It's something that shouldn't have happened, but it did happen, unfortunately. That's the sad truth of the matter. Look, Muta at this point can barely move it's not 1980s Muta. This isn't the Muta that faced Sting in the classic matches in the start of the early 90s as well. This Muta just is struggling to move. Cat is just the Cat. So yeah, it's not a great match, and less said about it probably the better.
Yeah, it was just a poor match for a pay-per-view. Really, just didn't deserve to be on the show for me.
No, it didn't deserve to be on the show for me either. What would be your star rating for this one?
I mean, I was generous because it was just mat-based wrestling, and it's not my strongest caliber. I went with 1 3/4.
I went with half a star. I'm so bored.
Wow.
Bored. Yeah.
Fair enough. Let me just emphasize this, guys. My average TV match rating is a 2-star. So anything under a 2 is still bad for me.
Yeah, it's not a good time, but let's see what Dave Meltzer had to say. Give this one a 1 star. This match was 6 minutes and 47 seconds. So interesting to know indeed. Yeah. CD here saying it's crazy that WCW could be around today if they made better booking decisions. They'd also be around today if TNT hadn't dropped them. Pretty much the documentary Who Killed WCW is a very good watch. Highly recommend those that haven't seen it definitely to go and do so, because WCW was facing a losing battle, not just on screen but off screen as well, for quite a long time. Right, we'll move on in the meantime, and Buff Bagwell. We've come to the point in the video that a lot of people want to see. Buff Bagwell was looking for his mum, Judy, backstage, but that's when the music would hit for Positively Kanyon, his opponent, and it was supposed to be Judy Bagwell on a pole match. Was Judy Bagwell this time, but there she is going high up onto the forklift, and pretty much Kanyon said that they couldn't find a pole big enough, basically, so they had to go with a forklift instead. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it needs a genius to explain this stipulation is absolutely bonkers, makes no sense. But for those that want a little bit of, well, why is Judy even involved in this to begin with? So Kanyon is being basically DDP at this point. That's why he's Positively Kanyon. He's dyed his hair blonde, although it looks more ginger at this stage. And he wants a valet, a DDP. Yeah, DDP and a Kimberly. So he wanted a Kimberly. So he was going to try and take Judy Bagwell and have her as the valet, but needed to win this match for that to happen. It's a very stupid storyline, but I don't know. I kind of see the funny side of this a little bit.
What's the appeal of having like a 50, 60, 70-year-old woman be your valet? Like, I don't get it. I mean, dude, you could have paid someone to be your valet that was like, you wouldn't have had to have gone and broke all these necessary health and safety violations by having someone strapped to a forklift truck. It's insane. I mean, she plays no part in the match whatsoever. It's not even like it was a custody battle. It's not even like, first person to get Judy down wins. It's kind of like she just spends 15 minutes strapped to the forklift truck, does absolutely nothing of any use to anyone, not even like flicking a shoe off at Kanyon or anything. She just stands there. Just what's the point? She plays no part in the match whatsoever, apart from the end where Bagwell like gets her down. It's stupid.
It's a bit crazy, to be fair. Look, the shoe flick and throwing the shoe would have been awesome, especially if she'd have missed it, Buff. That would have been just even better.
That's what I mean.
Well, look, let's go into some of the details of the match anyway, because obviously we see
details.
What if it's a match that happens here? And everyone goes on this one of like being worst match ever with category when we were doing this. I don't actually think the match is that bad if you take the forklift out of it. It's basically, to an effect, Judy Bagwell might as well be in a shark cage. That's pretty much the gist of what's been put in. Like you say, the forklift is to the side, it's out of the way. They have a match. If you can separate yourself from the madness, which is not easily done, I don't think it's as bad as maybe people are making out. But obviously they fight in the crowd because Buff obviously is upset. Why wouldn't he be? His mum's on a forklift. Obviously they come back then to the ring. Kanyon hits a Russian leg sweep from the second rope, the second turnbuckle. Then Kanyon actually cuts the turnbuckle pad off with pliers. Buff again gets back to the top and throws Kanyon into the exposed turnbuckle. Then it's he's countering a diamond cutter the first time, but hits a flapjack to put Kanyon on the second time, gets a near fall. David Arquette makes a return. David Arquette, people remember him WCW in 2000.
World champion, David Arquette. You had respect to that name at that point.
I should do, shouldn't I? He'd not been around for 3 months since losing that world title. Comes out and hits Buff with a helmet. Not that kind. This is a family show. But the match basically becomes 2-on-1. And obviously it doesn't take very long before a double clothesline is hit from Buff Bagwell. And of course he gets to hit the blockbuster. And that leads to Buff picking up the victory. And of course, for sad reasons, clip's gone. But yeah, Buff Bagwell hits a double double blockbuster to pick up the victory. What's your thoughts of the match here? And I'll try and get the clip.
You're right. It's not a bad match. It just, I think, like, obviously the whole Judy on a forklift just overshadows everything that else that goes on. Like, I don't understand why Arquette's in the match. I presume that there's some story beat with him and Kanyon, but yeah, it just, like, they could have made so much of a bigger deal out of this, and it kind of, to me, this was like just slightly above a bang average TV match for me. Like, I think the stipulation of it is probably the only reason why it's on the pay-per-view. Like, Bagwell just had like, I don't remember Bagwell having that many great matches in my lifetime, and it's kind of like, if this is the quality we're getting, like, I don't know if it's his booking or what, but it's just very boring.
Yeah, I mean, it's I get where you're coming from with it. Unfortunately, I can't find the clip, which has really annoyed me, if I'm being brutally honest. I've got every other clip to every other match, but you've got the forklift. I think that's what you mainly wanted to see anyway. I think we all can see a blockbuster from some point. Hey, Arquette doesn't even get a hit on him properly. Yeah, I mean, there is some complications with this match. I can't remember why Arquette's involved with this either, but I think it's the fact he turned on DDP. There were powers when he won the title, and he turned on DDP. So I think that's why he sided with Kanyon. But all in all, I don't think the match it's not a 5-star, obviously not a 5-star match, but don't think it's a dud either. I think it's somewhere in the middle with this one if you take the forklift out of it. But thankfully, Buff does win and does get to take Judy off of the forklift.
I went with a 2.25. Like I said, it was just slightly better than probably an average TV match.
Yeah, I would actually say 2.25 is a fair mark for this one as well. I'm going to still try and find a way to get that clip up here. You're not going to get away with it at some point, but just to give a 1 3/4 star rating for the 6-minute and 45-second match there from one Dave Meltzer.
There is something we need to talk about after this match, because you'll obviously know a bit more about this. So obviously they drop it that apparently Goldberg was in a motorcycle accident. Is that real, or is it a shoot, or what? Like, what's the deal with that? Is that what actually happened, or was this just something WWC were trying to do to protect Goldberg in a loss?
I genuinely don't remember. It's terrible to say, isn't it? That I'm genuinely not sure, but it's like it. I don't. I think it was like something that was meant to happen the day before. We see Goldberg turn up when he does turn up. He does have like tape around him as well. It's just a bit of a. I think WCW are trying to blur the lines. I don't think it's legit personally, because obviously if he was that injured in a motorcycle accident, he wouldn't have competed full stop. So
that's
I don't
what
think
I was thinking.
It just doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Yeah, I'm just trying to Google it now and see if I can find anything on it. And I genuinely thought when we got to that match that was the reason. That was how they booked Goldberg to lose, was the fact that he'd been in a motorcycle accident.
Absolutely, yeah. I can fair. To be fair, he would protect Goldberg in that circumstance. Pierre saying that the greatest match ever is the Judy Bagwell and Forklift match. I can sense the sarcasm. Same with CD, saying 5-star classic. It's terrible. Zane sharing his wrestling name would be Jerry Hattrick. Loving that. Absolutely perfect. And Pierce says, what the hell was David Arquette doing on New Blood Rising? I thought after Slamboree 2000 it was over. Sadly, not. Roger says, how good was Buff Bagwell? Do you know, I was a fan of Buff back in the day. I'm not as big a fan of Buff now. Music. Yeah, I was more. I think the music really helps. Not now. I think so as well.
He's the stuff.
And the girls just can't get enough.
A lot of nostalgia music.
Yeah, the cutter was not great by Kanyon to David Arquette, which happened after the match as well. So yeah, it wasn't good. Goldberg is on the pay-per-view, Sid. They just pretty much teasing us that he wouldn't be there, pretty much. So yeah, it's not great. PS is as well. His rating 1.5 out of 10. Ouch. Not a fan at all. And let's see if that actually raises for the next match for the 4-way for the tag team titles. KroniK against MIA, Misfits in action against the Perfect Event against Mark Jindrak and Shawn O'Hare. And of course, just in case you thought yourself remember from earlier on, we're going to have some special guest referee action here. But Disco is a special guest referee with 3 outside enforcers of Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrera, and Tyrus. Conan is on commentary. Did we need 4 special guest referees for this tag team match?
Do you know what? I appreciate it. I thought it was actually quite unique, and it made it kind of cool. Like the way they lined it out and the way that they all come down in referee shirts. It's like it's not something I've ever seen before, so I've kind of accepted it. And like, it was obviously meant to be really screwy, but there's plot holes galore in this match. And like, I mean, I put it this way: my biggest positive out of this was I enjoyed Konnan being on commentary, because he has one of the most distinctive voices. And it's almost comforting to hear him on commentary. Like he should have been a color commentator after he retired wrestling.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He's because he's got great knowledge as well, and especially he can still be great for us. Now, I like listening to Konnan when he pops up occasionally onto the YouTube filter here and there. It's always fun to listen to his takes and stuff. Let's say he's heavily involved with the Mexican scene as well at the moment, so he could actually offer a lot to someone on a platform if they were to, with Lucha Libre stars and stuff. And obviously, he keeps up with what's going on with the main products as well. So I think he would be an asset for that. But hey, Konnan, if you're ever listening, we think you should do commentary somewhere. It would be great to hear you. So basically, we see that Disco is slow counting on every occasion he can possibly in this match. Obviously, trying to look to pick their favourites of who they want to face the following night on Nitro for those tag team titles. We see the rest attack General Rection. I will say that one more time. General Rection. It's WCW 2000. Tyrus lands a Bronco Buster, which he enjoys. Let's not put a joke and two or two together there. But then Ray attempts it and gets a foot in the groin. I thought it was actually quite a fun spot.
Dude, best thing I've ever seen in my life for a Bronco Buster. I loved that. I thought it was great.
It was fun. It was good fun. But then, weirdly enough, Vampiro and Great Muta get involved. They try and get involved with KroniK, but nothing really comes of it, and then they just leave, which is just very weird. We go back to the slow counting as well, but seems to want to see Shawn and Mark Jindrak get the win. That's how it feels like they want to win. But KroniK seem to clean house. Disco refuses to count the 3 count when Bryan Clark hits the meltdown. And that's when we see the finale of the match happen, because at this point, like we say, Disco had been getting involved and stopping every pinfall. So we needed basically a new special guest referee. So 1, 2, 3. Now, obviously, this comes down to factions a little bit. Lieutenant Loco is a part of MIA, the Misfits in Action, yet he is desperate to help KroniK retain the tag team titles. Please explain why that makes any sense at all.
Dude, my exact point. This whole match is just full of nonsense, and it doesn't make sense. Like, the fact that Disco just can't seem to think who he wants to win the match, because he slow counts everyone. And it's like, are you just expecting this match to go on forever till like Tuesday so you don't have to wrestle anyone? Do you know what I mean? That was the other thing I was going to ask you as well. Were they like WCW tag team champions as well? Because they came out with belts on, and I'm like, were they doing the same shtick as WWE with two sets of titles or something? Because this was obviously for the world tag team. Oh, okay, because I didn't understand. I was like, I didn't know what was going on, whether they were meant to be like WCW tag team champions and KroniK were the world tag team champions. Do you know what I mean? I was a bit confused by that. But yeah, it's just like, Disco makes no sense. He doesn't know who he wants to win. You've got the Misfits in Action, who, if I can explain it to anyone who knows a general synopsis of wrestling, is basically your dollar store Dudley Boys, is what they look like. You've got Jindrak and O'Hare and Palumbo and I forget the other one's name now. Basically, four. Stasiak. Just 4 generic big guys that. Do you know what I mean? They do nothing. The only thing that separates these guys is their hairstyles. Otherwise, they are exactly the same 4 guys. They all wear generic wrestling gear. None of them have tattoos. They're just 4 generic wrestlers. And you've got KroniK, who I thought were actually quite badass. And I don't ever remember KroniK being. I don't even remember KroniK. And it was like, oh, let me see what happened to these guys. And then I found out like they had like a very, very almost like a fart, like it comes and then it's gone within a second sort of spell in WWE, and they were gone after Unforgiven 2001, and I thought, dude, these guys are great, and they found that they're kind of like the WCW's version of the APA, and I thought they're really good, but then you stick them all together, and dude, it's in the wrong stipulations always. It's a case of it's 2 guys out of 4 teams in the ring at any one time. Doesn't make sense. And you've got the Misfits in Actions tagging in they're tagging in someone, and I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I hate that rule anyway. So you've got just a chaotic match with 8 guys. You've got 4 referees. You've got interference. You've got a 5th referee come out from somewhere. And just honestly, dude, it was just complete pandemonium. Like, aside from like the 2 spots that, like I said, the reversal that Bill DeMott does on Rey Mysterio, which I thought was great. It was just crazy. Like, there was no organization to it all. No, dude, I couldn't even. If there was a story in there, you'd have to tell me where it was, because I honestly couldn't find it. It was just honestly just 8-man chaos, and like there was no, there was just nothing to it. This like, and then the fact that KroniK go on and have a match later on in the night. What was the point in having this match? You should have just had a match against. It just generally didn't make sense to me.
I mean, if you think about it, there's 14 wrestlers involved in this match. It's ridiculous, and that's not including Conan on commentary. So it's like it's a clusterfuck. That's pretty much what
Absolutely.
this is. It's an overbooked mess.
Madness.
It is. I mean, if you enjoy overbooked mess, then this will be a cup of tea. Go and sit at the table. You'll get quite a few courses thrown at you quite quickly, but it is hard to keep up, and it hurts the eyes to have to keep watching what's going on. It's a very badly booked match all around, and unfortunately, it doesn't get a good rating for me. I've gone as far as I'm going to go with 1 star, I think, for this match. That for me, I enjoyed the spot really with Rey Mysterio trying to do the Bronco Buster going wrong, and that's probably about where it goes. But I'm even tempted to go lower because, like I say, Lieutenant Loco, what is he thinking about with the special referee thing? Like, it should have been helping his own team, not KroniK. So, I mean, all in all, it's a very bad match. If I'm going lower, I'm going 0.5. This is terrible.
I went 1.5. It like I said, it was just a complete overbooked mess, and it was just logic. There was no logic to this. Like I've seen bad matches that have logic, and this was just a shit show. To be honest, just absolute shit show.
Absolute shit show sums it up perfectly. Let's go in to see what Dave Meltzer had to say about this match. We'll go back to the comments. 12 minutes and 22 seconds for an absolute dud. 0 point for this match from Dave Meltzer.
Don't blame Dave. Like, yeah, I was going to say, definitely won't be the last.
Won't be the last, I can promise you. It's going to be quite fun what's going to come up on this, so you can keep an eye out for it. But we've got quite a few comments come flying in for us now. And Sid asking, did WCW have any good pay-per-views? Absolutely. In its high time, there were some great pay-per-views. If I could recommend 2 or 3 off the top of my head, I would recommend Great American Bash 96, Bash in the Beach 96, Uncensored 1997, a 3 that just come off the top of the head. I do have a soft spot for Spring Stampede 1999, which we did earlier this year, which I think NXT kind of met me in the middle and said it was all right, but I think it was a good pay-per-view. But those would be 4 that I would recommend straight off the back for you.
I'm pretty sure that's what I got one of the matches where I'm like, the guy does no selling at all, wherever, and I'm like, what is this? How can you have a guy no sell an entire match? Oh yeah, it was Dean Malenko, wasn't it? I believe Dean Malenko has a match or someone like that, and I can't even remember now, but someone has a match.
I think it was Hardcore Hack against Bam Bam Bigelow. You wasn't a fan of that hardcore match?
Possibly, yeah. Like I said, there was no selling in it whatsoever, if I remember correctly.
I don't think there was too much of it, no. Kind of good talk of a Shaw CD agrees with us. His question is, why did this match need 4 special guest referees? WCW, please make it make sense. I mean, it was a faction. They were all agreed to it, and the heels. That's my explanation. But honestly, it was a lot going on. It was very much a lot going on.
That's what I mean. They I like the idea of the enforcer aspect, but it wasn't like they were trying to purposely get one team to win for them to face on Nitro. They were just beating up everyone and slow counting everyone. And like, that's what I mean. What are you trying to do? Get this match to go on till Tuesday, so you haven't got to face any of them. It's so stupid.
It's very stupid, especially when you want to win those titles as well. Was WCW a good wrestling company, says Sid? For the most part, I would say yes. Obviously, it gave a place for people to work. They gave WWE a good run for their money. Arguably changed the business with NWO as well. Without that, I don't think it does push WWE to get better than what they were doing in the new generation. We would have never had an Attitude Era. So I would have to say, yes, WWE was a good wrestling company. Sadly, when it got to this stage in the year 2000 is where the wheels fell off the bicycle.
Yeah, definitely. Like, dude, I think the NWO t-shirt alone is probably the second biggest t-shirt, and like in history that behind Austin's 316 t-shirt that's like the biggest merch seller ever.
It's still in the top 10 of WWE sales this month. That tells you how good the t-shirt still is.
Wolfpack one. Not this month, but I bought one.
It's on my to-do list. You will one of these days see them on the stream. We'll have it on at the same time. Again, MIA wants another team to win. That makes no sense. Absolutely makes 0 sense, CD. That exactly. Nil point. This one was not good at all. Did you like WCW versus WWE? Absolutely. Competition is very, very healthy, just like we've got today.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with more companies and more competition. Like, dude, but I think like for me, as a 15, 16-year-old kid, the invasion angle I thought was the best thing to ever happen to pro wrestling.
Absolutely, I thought so at the time as well. And Zane said the only thing good about WCW was Stacy Keebler. Well, you're in luck, my friend, because Stacy is on this show. Yeah, don't know if we'll give it a high rating, but she's on this show. Why did KroniK have to defend the WCW tag team titles twice in one night? What was the storyline? We're jumping a little bit ahead of ourselves, but long story short, Vampiro and Great Muta attack KroniK in that tag team match we've just discussed. Later on in the evening, Vampiro and Muta are seen again, and they are attacking Sting, and KroniK come to make the save. Therefore, KroniK offer them a tag team title match. So they were just stupid enough to put the belts on the line. It's their own fault of doing 2 matches in one night. But did they walk away with the victory? People who have seen it will know. Others, you'll have to wait to find out. But in the meantime, we will move on to, well, something that you usually very much look forward to seeing on these WCW shows. Billy Kidman, he's taking on Shane Douglas with Tori Wilson in a strap match. This one here. So both men, in my opinion, I'm going to do a little bit of opinion here. I thought they were a bit uncomfortable with the strap, if I'm being brutally honest. Kidman looked to wrap around the strap around Douglas, but the strap doesn't kind of fully get round him properly, but Shane goes down anyway. There's a moment where Kidman is press slammed onto the ropes as well. He doesn't hit the ropes. He's nowhere near them. Tori takes her shoe off to hit Kidman, but hits Shane Douglas. Douglas then goes into Tori, and she doesn't crash to the floor. So just to show that as well, so you can see it at the same time, it's pretty much our show right here, which is a version of the Unprettier there for the 1, 2, and 3. There is some aftermath with this one, which will not be shown, as it is a little bit graphic. Obviously, basically, Billy Kidman wants some revenge on Tori to begin with, so he starts whipping her with the strap on the buttocks. That's why I didn't say that.
And that's not the worst part.
That's not the worst part. Shane gets himself back involved in the match. Basically, a steel chair is put near the corner, and they have the strap. They put the strap around Billy's neck, and they kind of do a hanging motion for a short time before Big Vito makes the save. And weirdly enough, after Big Vito makes the save, being a hero, his relation, Reno, comes in to confront Big Vito, which again makes no sense and shows Reno to not really be a very nice person. The fact that he would have been kind of happy if Vito had not made the save. But hey, all the aftermath aside, first off, thoughts of the match.
Do you know what? I didn't think they actually handled it too badly. Like, I've seen strap matches in the last couple of years where they've looked uncomfortable and they can't seem to work out how to get in and out of a ring with the strap. And I thought these two did pretty well, surprisingly enough. It was just the fact that you've got Shane Douglas, who is a bit of a unit, like he's a built guy, and you've got Billy Kidman, who is the smallest of people, and Shane Douglas just seemed to be intimidated by him half the time. And I was like, I get the strap is meant to add some sort of, ooh, stay away from me, like, getting hit with a leather belt hurts kind of thing. But I was like, Shane Douglas is easily twice the size of Billy Kidman, so I was a bit perplexed by that dynamic. But aside from it, I thought the match was all right. It's not the worst strap match I've ever seen. This was the thing about this show in general as well. So obviously it's a strap match. The normal rules are you have to touch all 4 turnbuckles to win the match. No, not in this match. And it just seemed to be a thing about this whole pay-per-view that WCW just don't care about rules. Because, we had obviously that stipulation. Then there was what was the first match? It wasn't the ladder match. It was the Great Muta versus, was it that one? Give me a second. There's one of the matches. Oh, Bagwell versus Kanyon. Someone hits a low blow, which I'm pretty sure is a DQ move. Both guys are down, and the ref starts counting to 10, and I'm like, if this is a no DQ match, why is the ref counting to 10? Doesn't kind of make sense. And it was just a running theme throughout the night. It just seemed to be like rules were applied when necessary and then didn't care the rest of the night. And like it just kind of it really does ruin a lot of the matches as well, because it's the same with this. Like, I get that the straps there just so they can beat the living hell out of each other, but then even things like Tori not taking that bump, that's a bump we've seen. I've never seen someone not sell that as a bump. And to see Tori take it and stay on the apron, and I'm like, I'm sorry, is Tori built out of bricks or something now? Do you know what I mean? Because she's solid, she doesn't move, and then like, obviously it plays into it afterwards. But then even the two guys afterwards as well. Like I didn't know who the two guys were. I thought there's just two random, and they just start fighting, and I'm like, Kidman's disappeared at this point, and you just got two random guys fighting, and I'm like, I'm sorry, is this an unannounced match that we've now got? You know, card subject to change or something?
Yeah, family feud that kicks off basically. Just when they look like they could maybe get on, Reno joins the Natural Born Thrillers, which is a faction that starts long after this. One of the better factions in WCW in the year 2000. Obviously, I mentioned Palumbo, O'Hare, Shawn, Stasiak, and Mark Jindrak earlier on in the show. They end up uniting in part of a faction with also average man Mike Saunders as well. So yeah, definitely worth checking that out at some point. But yeah, all in all for me, I would just try and say it wasn't my favourite. It just wasn't my favourite. I thought it was a bit messy for me. It was a bit clunky. I just thought the strap got in the way. Look, to be fair, this is they've had worse matches, I suppose, is the compliment I'll give here. They were involved in the infamous Viagra on a pole match. Yes, you heard that correctly. Viagra on a pole. So yeah, it's let's just move on.
I went with the 2 because I genuinely thought it was just an okay match that they had a strap on it. Like, I really was genuinely interested to see if Billy Kidman could hit a shooting star press with a strap on, because I thought that would have been amazing if you could do it. But unfortunately, I didn't get my wish, and he ends up hitting it with the Unprettier. Yeah,
he didn't do that at all, did he? But for me, it's a 1 star. I didn't enjoy the match, and if I'm being honest, now we bring the aftermath into it as well. It's tasteless. It's reckless.
Oh yeah, dude. Actually, no, I forgot to take that into account. Yeah, that was definitely, this is a dud for me. As soon as you do that, that ruins it. I honestly forgot about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dud moment at the end of it. So match is 1 star,
and it's not the only time it happens tonight as well.
WCW, ladies and gents, in the year 2000. Dave Meltzer has rated this half a star. Half a star rating. And it's a dud. It's a dud.
As soon as you get that last angle, and I'm like, nah, I'm good, man.
Well, it's not good. If you're enjoying the video so far,
you want to kissing a dead body. Do you know what I mean?
Oh god, yeah, that's definitely it. We've hit new lows already. But on that note, hit the like button if you're enjoying the video. Subscribe as well if you're new here. It's a good time to get involved.
The best match is coming up soon, I promise.
Yeah, I know what one you're referring to. Interesting question. Interesting question. I'm going to take this one first. Roger says, will WCW ever return? I would never say never, you know. WWE could do it. They could bring it, but they have the rights to it. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, if they wanted to branch out and do another show, because, I mean, I get the feeling now that what Triple H is trying to do is genuinely turn NXT into the 3rd show and get it doing tours and get it going around the country, because the fact that the next 2 shows are one's in Chicago and I forget where the next one is, I genuinely feels like he's going to try and make a 3rd brand. And like, dude, if their idea is to have a wrestling show on every night, why not bring WCW back?
They'll put it on Wednesdays.
Bring back Thunder. Make a decent name out of WCW Thunder.
I would like that. I wouldn't be against that. Zane asks, why do so many people hate Goldberg? Possibly for some of the actions he might have on this show, might be for some of the reasons. But I think as I say, hate Goldberg, I don't really hate anybody in the wrestling sort of sphere for what they do. I mean, they don't make half of the decisions themselves. But I mean, Goldberg on his return is his return when he comes back to WWE. You know, he beats Kevin Owens in 21 seconds, beats The Fiend. It's that sort of stuff. It just rubs people the wrong way. So I think that's why a lot of people have distaste for Goldberg.
Yeah, just a little bit. Like, do you know what I mean? When he was fondly remembered for the 90s, but if he was going to come back, he should be putting people over, not winning.
Absolutely. Zayn said he went mad when Shane McMahon said he'd bought WCW. Was we surprised? Yeah, back in the time. I really enjoyed that storyline at the time.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was great.
Was The Undertaker in WCW as Mean Mark he was? Yes, not as The Undertaker, but Mean Mark he was there. So, yeah. Toronto 95 in us, thank you very much. Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us in the stream, and look forward to some more of your comments as we go through this video. CD's jumped ahead of us. Rip your clothes off match. Yeah, match types were certainly odd for this show. We'll be going to that in a couple of seconds. And CD just mentioned NXT, but it's supposed to be coming soon. Do not forget about that. No, absolutely not. I think Bash in Berlin could be a good time for WWE to announce something, so we'll keep an eye out for that. But we mentioned it. Let's bring it up, shall we? The rip off the clothes match, Major Guns versus Miss Hancock. There's not really much detail you need to really go into this match, really. They rip each other's clothes off.
Can I do the match summary for you? Major Gun wins. There you go. End of.
Unfortunately,
honestly, there's nothing to talk about with this match. It's a poor match. Like, even if you call it, it's exactly what it is. You've got one commentator who is trying to. Is it Michael Madison trying to be like Jerry the King Lawler, and he's just basically perving over two women for about 6 minutes. This match gets way too much time. In fact, it's actually not even the shortest match on the card, which is an insult to another match that's coming up afterwards. And yeah, honestly, don't even bother. And then the story angle that they go with afterwards, even better. This is on the lines of the last match.
Yeah, it's not great, is it? Look, we know Russo is looking to be controversial, to get as much talking points out of these matches as possible. Obviously, like you say, they attempt some wrestling moves. It's not great. Rip the clothes off, yeah, and then there's a pool of mud. And the angle, which we can see, Stacey Keebler, which leads to the role for Sorry, guys. But yeah. She gets wheeled off in an ambulance, and we learn afterwards that she's pregnant with David Flair's child. David Flair has come to check on her as well. But of course, then they break up because I think they're meant to have a marriage of some description. They break up. She takes time away, and then when she returns, turns out there was a miscarriage and nothing involved. And she's with Shawn Stasiak and just turns on David Flair. So, big major angle, completely went nowhere. And yeah, this isn't good. I can tell you, this probably is going to be the worst rated match on the show from both of us.
Absolutely, this is an absolute stinker. This is, do you know what? This could possibly be the worst match ever. And it is. I honestly, for me, this is a -5. It's horrible. It sucks. The angle, the story afterwards. It's like it's something that you get on a TV. What you got, soap opera, the whole miscarriage thing. It's honestly, it's bad. It's like, I don't understand what Russo's plan. I think it was like, it's like WCW needed to put someone in who had a filter to sit with him and just almost hit him with a stick every time he come up with dumb ideas like this and be like, no, Russo, that's a bad Russo.
Yeah, it's a bad Russo, to be fair. With some of the fallout of the storyline, obviously this match is all Russo. This is all of his stuff. He's the one of like with the hot angle. Let's do the pregnancy angle. It's gonna be, he was into like those sort of daytime like TV things like Jerry Springer and stuff like that, the confrontations and everything like that. That was his shtick, and he liked to bring that into wrestling. And to be fair, what we mentioned with WWE, at times he had successes. There are some bits that you might find in WCW 2000 that might be entertaining, but a lot of it perhaps not. This wasn't entertaining, and obviously then, like we said there, when it comes over to the point where she takes time off TV, Miss Hancock, obviously better than Stacey Keebler. They break kayfabe, by the way, commentary mentioning her real name is Stacey Keebler, by the way. They do a lot of that on this show. It gets to the point she's off TV for 6 months. So when she does return, Russo's not around anymore, so they need to find a way to like, is she going to be there with a baby or is she not? Like, how are we going to get around this, because she's supposed to be a mum at this point? So I don't fully blame them for trying to find the ways that they want to do this, but it's very tasteless. It's a bad match. You go with the -5. I mean, yeah, I'm going to join you with it, really, because it's not, I can understand that that's the times and stuff like that. That's what they wanted to do. Like, obviously, I mean, Ray's asked the question here, do you do like bra and panties matches? I mean, I think the answer you can give there, which is the most diplomatic, is we were all 15 once. Do you know what I mean? Like, we were all young once, but like these days, this is not what we're here for. Do you know what I mean? Like, we want to see equality in wrestling. That's what we want to see. However, to some people, it's their bag, and to their bag, fair play. But yeah, it's not for us. -5 stars. The storyline didn't help either. But for Dave Meltzer, he has gone for a -2 star rating. It's his least favorite match on the entire show. Spoiler alert, they don't get worse than this.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
It does suck indeed, I'm afraid. But yeah, this match was so bad. But Toronto says they were the best. He enjoyed it. So fair play to Toronto if you enjoyed it. Right, we'll move on in the meantime. We'll go to our next match, which happens to be Sting versus the Demon. Don't worry, won't be taking too long on this one because, well, the Demon comes to ringside. Vampiro and Muta are on the mic backstage, and they pretty much said like for him to go and prove himself to be a part of the group because they have been feuding before this. But Sting comes down with his, I don't know, the way he sort of comes from the ceiling down as well. But he gets attacked. Yeah, gets attacked by the Demon. They go to the ring, get into the ring. Sting hits the Stinger Splash. There you go, your 3 count as well there. This match lasts in total, this is the shortest match on the show, 52 seconds. And that leads to the fall that we mentioned earlier on as well, with then Vampiro and Muta coming out to attack Sting. And obviously it leads to KroniK then making the save for Sting. And that leads to the tag team titles being defended again later in the night. Your thoughts, if you can share many of them, we'll try and keep under 50 seconds of Sting versus the Demon.
I'll try and be as brief as that. I genuinely, if I was a paying customer and I got a 52-second Sting match, I think I'd be royally effed off. I think just feel like I'd be ripped off. I did try looking into the whole Demon idea, and I'm sure Gene Simmons would have probably sued him if that was the gimmick. Apparently, this was a Bischoff idea, and apparently Bischoff had left maybe 3 or 6 months before this whole thing happened, and so that's why essentially they buried the character. And so that's why it never came to anything bigger than what this is. And apparently he was even meant to main event a pay-per-view, but ended up getting, I think, the 4th match from the main event, which apparently was one of them times where it is a main event, but it's the 4th match from the end kind of job. So yeah, it's a dud for me. Like, hey, Sting got the win in a match, I suppose. That's the positive.
Absolutely, yeah. Sting got the win. We move on. Star rating, if you can give one.
Dud. 0.
Dud for me as well. There's no match. No. And I wasn't a fan of the Demon either back in the day, but that's just personal preference, unfortunately. But back into the comments we go. There is some love for Bryan Panties matches in our comment section. Fair play to you that do enjoy it. So it says, was Sting the best wrestler in WCW? NXT, will let you answer that first.
For his weight class, I would say yeah. I think there were better wrestlers in a lower weight class, though. Eddie Guerrero. I think Eddie Guerrero is obviously just a much better technical wrestler. Benoit was probably a better wrestler, but I think for a heavyweight main event scene, yeah, I think Sting probably was one of the best.
Yeah, main event scene wise, I would probably agree. But yeah, I mean, trying to remember, Bret Hart was around as well for a period for me, and he's one of the best wrestlers of all time. It's hard to ignore Bret Hart in that conversation, but Sting is the lifer with WCW. Obviously, Ric Flair as well, someone that's been around for a lot of the time, was very good in ring also. But yeah, when you took the likes of the cruiserweights, you mentioned Eddie Guerrero. I mean, there's Dean Malenko as well, Rey Mysterio, Psychosis. There's some great talent in amongst that lot. So I wouldn't actually say he's the best wrestler, but probably best main event wrestler. Was there any female referees? Not to my knowledge.
You know more than I would.
Maybe on a special referee basis. Wouldn't have surprised if Russo certainly had booked that. But yeah, I can't give you any more on that. But what I can give you...
Tigress was one tonight.
Yeah, there you go. She was, yeah. That's the point. Yeah. Short-term memory. But the reason is because I need me some... I'm sick of doing regular rules matches and Russo regular booked matches. I need to do a Canadian rules match. That's what I need to do.
The greatest match.
Oh dear. So
this is by far the greatest wrestling stipulation I have ever seen in a match. I want every match to be a Canadian rules match from this point forward. I was absolutely wetting myself with laughter. This is so good. And when you've got someone like Lance Storm, who tries his damnedest to be such a serious wrestler, and you've got Jacques Rougeau outside there with this tiny little Canadian rulebook changing it every 5 minutes. Oh, dude, this was fantastic. This is by far the greatest wrestling match possibly ever in WCW history.
Don't know if I can take it seriously. Oh, dude.
I love this.
Do you know what? I watched this the first time at some point in the pandemic, and I absolutely hated it. I couldn't stand it. And I think because when you watch everything storyline-wise and go forward,
why do you hate it?
My reasoning, I think, for hating is because I'm a big Lance Storm fan, and he's basically booked like a complete jobber. He's booked like an enhancement talent throughout this. I think that's my main gripe with it. But if I take away from it,
he's in Canada. It's great. This makes so much sense. He's in Vancouver. This just is perfect, man. And this is essentially WCW sticking their fans up to Canada and just saying, like, dude, F you guys, man.
Look, as a second watch and watching it this time round, although I think this match has some downfalls, I was laughing at points in this match. I was having a good time watching it. I think it's an entertaining watch. I can tell it's an entertaining watch because without even seeing what comments are coming through, the numbers are jumping up in the comment section. We will get to you all very, very quickly, but let's quickly go into a bit of detail for you, especially for what is a Canadian rules match, for those that are even wondering, well, hang on, what are we even doing here? Well, first off, Lance Storm gets the full national anthem. That never happens, ever. He always got interrupted every time in WCW. He got a full national anthem. It happened. And he said, as
bearing in mind,
go on.
Bearing in mind, Jacques Rougeau has just come out 30 seconds prior to the Canadian anthem, so we have two renditions of it.
We do indeed. And obviously, like we said, Storm on the mic, he said it's Canadian rules. So he invoked Rule 32B that calls for a special guest enforcer overseeing the rules of the Canadian rule book, which, of course, you've mentioned there is Jacques Rougeau, of course, a former member of the Rougeau brothers, and, of course, was the Mountie back in the 90s as well. So the match itself, Mike Awesome brings that table early doors, but I had to bring this clip in just because I think it's bloody hilarious. It's Mike Awesome trying to go to the top. He does save it though. He does save it, and he hits a clothesline. So fair play to him on that one. But so the story of the match is that Lance Storm basically is no match for Mike Awesome throughout this entire match. So this is the first occasion you're going to see in time, just a personal thing. But we can see the referee does award that a free count and is going to give the match to Mike Awesome. We're about 2 to 2.5 minutes into the match, but this is the genius of what is outside of Jacques Rougeau's book. Hang on, this is not how things are going to go. So the first time round, obviously, we saw the pinfall there. So this match, being the fact that this is in Canada, when it's a Canadian rules match, it's a 5 count. So the match restarts. So seconds later, Awesome gets Storm in a Dragon Sleeper. They reckon it's sort of a homage to Ultimo Dragon, as Lance Storm has more than one title. There's 3 titles at this point. Ultimo used to have like 9 or 10. But he taps out to this as well. This is to Jacques Rougeau, again, getting the book. And according to Canadian rules, championship matches in Canada can only be ended by pinfall. So the match has to restart. Again, the fans are cheering by this point. So we have a few pinfall attempts where it's like 3.5 and a kick out. We see Tony Giovanni being like, yeah, 4. He's like, I can't believe this is a 4 and there's a kick out and the match isn't finished. Mike Awesome then does an awesome splash and actually gets a pinfall of 5. And this is when Jacques Rougeau says, according to Canadian rules, the man after a 5 count has a 10 count to get up after a pinfall. Storm gets up at 8. Again, the match restarts. You mentioned about the fact of the no rules situation, and Lance Storm hits a low blow and uses a steel chair. So obviously, there's no DQ in Canadian rules, just me having a hunch. We then get Mike Awesome hitting a belly to belly off the top rope, which leads to both of them going through a table. This is when we get our main point of the match. What is the case is that both men are down after a table spot. The first person to get up before the count of 10 is the winner of this match. No pinfalls, no submissions, none of that needed anymore. It's all about getting up. And Jacques Rougeau, being the great enforcer that he is, helps the referee with the counting. He says, I'll focus on Awesome, you focus on Storm. So you can see how there you go. Lance Storm is declared the victor and still your Canadian champion in Canadian rules. Look, it's stupid, it's bonkers, it makes no sense whatsoever. It's a mockery of professional wrestling, but it's quite entertaining, isn't it?
Sports entertainment at its finest. Dude, I have not laughed. Honestly, I was not expecting to laugh that hard, but I was wetting myself. And I texted you and I said to you, if Chelsea Green ever wins a championship and has to defend it in Canada, if she's not having a Canadian rules match with Lance Storm as a special guest enforcer, WWE have surely missed the greatest opportunity there. It's such a match stipulation that is designed for one person in particular. And Chelsea Green, for me, is that one person because she's someone that would love to bend the rules in that kind of match.
Do you know what? Chelsea Green would be amazing with this style of stipulation. So I completely 100% agree. It would be awesome for her to do it. The reason I had a bit of a problem with Lance Storm doing it is the fact that he was presented in 3 months in WCW as like being their next top guy. He was like winning left, right, and center, winning championship after championship after championship. And the dude even had a world title shot like 2-3 months later. But he was being presented as someone that was just being beaten up left, right, and center. He might have been the Brooklyn Brawler. You know, that's how I kind of felt watching it. But like I say, it's very entertaining regardless.
Wasn't he like the light heavyweight, the cruiserweight, and the light heavyweight, the United States, Canadian, and the hardcore champion at the same time?
He was indeed. He rebranded all those championships, which don't ask me to tell everyone of because they all had ridiculous names. The hardcore title had the initials which spelt out shit. That's pretty much what was the gist of the title. If I have a minute, I'll try and Google Lance Storm's WCW Championship rebrands, but they're quite special to say the very least. But look, I think it's quite clear. We kind of like this. Even if it's for all the wrong reasons. I'd like to know your star rating for this match.
I couldn't be insane and give it a 5. So for me, I went with a 4 because this was just fantastic.
4?
Yeah, dude, a 4. Do you know what? I honestly loved it. This was my match of the night. It was just pure fun, pure chaos. And I tell you what, if you could, like I said many times before, if you can get me to laugh at something stupid in wrestling, I will love it. There's been so many times when like brawls happen and I just piss myself laughing because I find them hilarious. I'll tell you a good example, the Ronda Charlotte Becky fight where they all end up getting arrested and all that backstage and all fighting amongst the police cars, and Ronda gets kneed in the side of the head by Charlotte while she's half hanging out of a police car. One of the funniest segments I've seen in WWE in years. Dude, I was wetting myself. And I'll tell you what, this is how comical I am, man. I just love it, man. I get 4 stars from me.
Fair enough. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to give it the same rating. I'm going with a 3-star rating. I think
I've had the names.
Go on, share with everyone the names before we go to the comments.
So he was the Canadian 100 kilos and under championship, and he was the Saskatchewan Hardcore International title. Great. Oh, dear. Obviously, the United States was just rebranded to the Canadian Championship.
Yep.
Sorry, what did you rate it?
3-star. It's high, a lot higher than what I would have done originally, but I can tell you that Dave Meltzer's on a bit of a theme here. Dud for the 9 minutes.
Outrageous, Dave. Outrageous. This is how you can tell Dave only like serious wrestling. No, there's no fun anymore.
Will there be fun in our comments section? Because I can tell there's so many comments here. I'll do my best to get through what I can, but it's difficult to get through all of them. So let's try and find the top here. Was this the time? Yes, this was the time that he was the three-time champion. This, of course, is Lance Storm's peak. Would agree with that as well. Was Vince Russo a good booker? I mean, we've kind of covered this already. Debatable. I think, yeah, it's debatable, but I think if he had someone watching him, I think so. But when he was left to do the reins, it's pretty tough to see there. What was better, in Roger's opinion, WCW or ECW?
It depends on what your kettle of fish was, because obviously ECW is all the hardcore stuff, and if you're into all the blood, gore, and violence, it's just whatever your kettle of fish is, really. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I think even from booking wise, you'd probably still have to say ECW.
I mean, they had some great storylines, ECW, back in the day. The Rise and Fall documentary is amazing. They've got some great stuff in there. For me, the younger me would say ECW. Now I'm, let's say, more seasoned. Is that a fair way to put it?
Veteran.
I would
veteran.
Say, veteran. I've been around the block a few times. I would say WCW now. Plus, it's a lot more fresher in my head, everything that's happened in WCW. But both had, obviously, a bit of a mighty fall towards the end. But ECW's creative wasn't as bad as WCW's got towards the end. Toronto. Oh, Canada. Gotta love it indeed. What was the best WCW wrestler's theme music? It's got to be Disco Inferno, surely.
Shut up with that Disco Inferno rubbish. Every time, man. Dude, if I had it, I do actually have the WCW Mayhem disc, the CD. And, like, obviously, DDP used to have Nirvana, which I just thought was great. Sting's was obviously great as well, but like someone had Metallica, and I can't remember who. And whoever had the Metallica one, I'll give that one to. I can't remember who it was now.
Oh, it was Sting had Metallica, didn't he? At one point.
Oh, maybe. I'm not too sure. Wolfpack was a banger as well.
Wolfpack was a banger, to be fair. I also like Steiner Brothers. Stan Alan. I thought that was a good one. Bit of retro, but it was good. Tim says, I guess Vince Russo booked this match. He booked a lot of the show. Probably all of it, if we're being honest. He will feature when we talk about it in about 5 minutes' time from now.
Is the greatest thing Vince Russo has ever booked in his life.
Oh, dear. I love it. I love it. Well, I tell you what, we will move on in the meantime, and we will talk about the tag team championship match between KroniK and the Dark Carnival. This one for me, again, not really much to discuss, really. It was the second championship match in the evening for KroniK defending, but they ended up losing the tag team titles to the Dark Carnival. And basically the reason was the involvement of the Harris brothers. They made a moonsault from the top rope as the referee was down at that point there to get the pinfall victory. This one wasn't a very long match between these guys. This match was only, I'll tell you what, it wasn't that much. It was nearly 10 minutes. It didn't feel that long watching it, but it was quite long apparently. But what were your thoughts then anyway of KroniK versus Dark Carnival?
A bang average TV tag team match for me. This is, again, goes back to that first tag team match where they got the 8-man. Like, because obviously the winners of this match will then go on to face Filthy Animals on Nitro the following night. So what was the point of the 8-man match then to have this match? Just, it honestly didn't make sense. It was just, again, a match you could have just easily not had on the card. So, yeah, man, it was just, for me, a bang average TV tag team match.
Yeah, I mean, this one, yeah, it's all right. Like you say, it's bang average. It's okay. It's nothing special. But I did have a little bit of a like of the Dark Carnival. I just thought it was quite a cool group, quite a cool gimmick they had going on at that time period. But especially when they didn't have the demon in it.
Vampiro gave me very Sting meets Jeff Hardy, like his whole aesthetic and look and stuff.
Yeah,
I like the aesthetic of the group, but I again not a big WCW fan, so I couldn't say I've seen much of their stuff over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. What would be your star rating for this match? We're keeping it short for this one.
Bang average match, 2 stars for me.
I'm going to go for a 1.5, but for the third match in a row, Dave Meltzer has gone with a dud.
Well, that's a bit harsh on this one. It was a normal tag team match. I think that's a bit rude.
I think at this point he's given up. For being
Hang on
honest.
a minute. For the third match in a row.
Yeah.
So what did he give? He gave Major Guns versus Miss Hancock a 2.
-2.
Oh,
It's
okay.
the
I was going to say, I thought he gave.
fourth dud of the night, but he's actually given a dud or minus. This is the 5th match.
Oh, okay. For a second, I thought like he gave them a above 0 rating. I was like, hang on a minute, that doesn't sound right.
At this point of the card, we're 9 matches in. The second match on the show was Ernest Miller versus the Great Muta. Had a 1 star. It's the second highest rated match on the show.
Jesus.
Oh, it's the 3rd in total. No, that's a lie. Actually, that's a lie. I do lie. It's the 3rd highest match in total because actually the match with Buff Bagwell and Kanyon is 1 3/4. Unfortunately, I'm not reading properly. But yeah, it's the 3rd highest one.
Doesn't make it better.
So, yeah. It doesn't make it better. You're not going to lie. Let's go into the comments in the meantime. Temple with a great memory of this one. It was one of his favourite matches when he was a young child. Sting versus Vampiro in a Human Torch match. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's at the Great American Bash 2000. If I'm not mistaken. It is exactly what it reads on the tin. Human Torch match. Basically the form of an inferno.
Isn't there a load of controversy about that as well?
There is, yeah. Yeah, a lot of content. We'll cover it one day. We'll cover it one day. WCW said Great Muta wrestled twice. What the heck? Literally, there was no rule. Exactly. Muta wasn't there probably for very long, so they got their money's worth. This match should not have been on pay-per-view. Could have been safe for Nitro. Completely agree. The only thing for me was they obviously, I think they realized they were going through it and needed another match to fill up the time. That's the only thing I can think of why they set extra matches on the card.
You could have just put on better quality matches.
You could have done, but it's what it is. Temple says the Great Muta and Vampiro was the Dark Carnival. I'm pretty sure the Posse was in the faction. They were at one point.
Well.
They were in the faction. Yeah, they didn't stay in the faction. They kind of were there for like a short time. I think it started with Vampiro, the Posse, and Raven. Raven then left to go back to ECW. Then I think the Posse either went or they were still there with Vampiro. My mind now goes a bit fuzzy, but it did lead to being Vampiro and the Great Muta, along briefly with the Demon, which is definitely when it goes to the dark days of the Dark Carnival. But yeah, it's what it is with that one. Roger says, will you rate any match 5 stars? Not on this show. Not on this show, Roger. Not to disappoint you, we've got 2 more matches to go. Neither of them will be 5 stars, but I will promise you one of them will be above 2 stars. I promise that. It's not going to be a complete dud. One of the last 2 matches will not be a dud. Roger says he's disappointed AEW did not get the right for Bryan Danielson to have the final countdown. It's my favourite song of all time. Spotify is always handy though. But yeah, I understand. It's a very expensive song to get, apparently. Europe will not let it go cheaply, unfortunately. In fact, we can't even mention it more than twice on this video because we'll probably get copyrighted. But that's a joke. Dun, dun, dun. And yeah, I won't sing it either. We'll move on in the meantime. Yeah, we're in trouble now. We'll move on in the meantime. Do you know what? One thing I didn't mention in this stream, so I'm going to bring it up now as we go through all the matches. Booker T, because I think we were quite keen to mention about some of the matches earlier in the show. Booker T actually arrived midway through the show, your WCW champion, you know. And he got attacked in the parking lot by Jeff Jarrett. Was desperate to win the title back. So Booker T had been checked on a few times backstage, but looked like he was going to be good to go for the main event. But hey, I don't know if I was you, if I was Jeff Jarrett, I think I would have targeted his shoulder.
I don't know. I don't get that. I don't know what you have to explain that reference to me.
Well, he's injured his leg, so I wouldn't go for the shoulder if I was him. That was just a bad joke, really.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Fair enough. Went over my head, Steve. Sorry, but normally I get him, but that one went over my head that time.
Don't worry about it. Because I was going to skip to the main event. But good news is we're not going to do that. We're going to go to Kevin Nash versus Scott Steiner versus Bill Goldberg. So pretty much we mentioned about early in the video.
Wow.
Goldberg has exactly.
Wow.
If you want to know which of the matches we're going to be kinder about, you've probably already guessed it's not going to be this one. Goldberg was unsure if he was actually going to be competing on this show at all after his meant to be motorcycle accident the day before. So we had Nash come out, we had Steiner come out, and we did have Nash did say backstage that he wouldn't be surprised if Goldberg wouldn't come. He was there for two reasons: to win the title and get money. So he really didn't care if Goldberg was there or not. Goldberg did appear early into the match and attack Nash with a steel chair. Again, no DQ obviously, but it's a triple threat match, so we'll kind of let that one go. But I think the main talking point of this match is when Kevin Nash goes for a jackknife powerbomb. So we have two clips of Goldberg to this. There you go. Beautiful. Goldberg walks out on the match where Russo wants him to get back in. And if you are wondering, yes, commentary, do then stay for the rest of this match. Oh, was that meant to be the finish that Goldberg was supposed to take the jackknife? They're going to have to improvise the match now. It's kind of like, what the hell are we doing here? They've broken kayfabe completely. More or less said this is a scripted fake show. And yeah, it kind of leads to no belief for the rest of the match. We do get, though, for those that are interested, Scott Steiner and Nash have a match for a short time. We do get someone that was with Scott Steiner. Her name comes off the top of my head now. Medusa, I think I've said that right. She does a low blow to Kevin Nash. And
I've just got random woman. Couldn't tell you. Commentary made no point of noting who she was. They just went, "Oh, here comes this woman," and I was like, "She's just." I'm like, "Who?" Couldn't tell, mate.
She did an elbow drop as well. She pulled his legs apart and did an elbow drop on his groin as well. So, I mean, yeah, not a good time for him. But Nash did make a recovery despite this attack take. That's the big question. But so Nash is the winner and is also a number one contenders match. So Kevin Nash would be the number one contender for the next show, taking on the winner of Booker and Jeff Jarrett. But as for a triple threat match goes, what should be a match that you'd be really excited for, seeing Nash, Steiner, and Goldberg, a complete shit show. And let's be honest, it's overbooked again, isn't it? Because of the fact here, I mean, why is Goldberg walking out? Why are they blurring the lines? Why is Russo saying getting back in? And why are they saying they have to improvise the script?
Dude, I mean, that's why I turned around and said to you that is the motorcycle thing a ploy in a way of protecting Goldberg and having Goldberg lose this match. And then this, I honestly now, nearly 25 years later, I couldn't think of anything more boring to watch than a Steiner Kevin Nash match. Honestly, dude, like if you offered it to me, like as you said to me, I'll give you £1 million to watch Steiner versus Nash. I'd rather gouge my eyes out with a spoon. It's so boring. Honestly, like if you want to think of the most boring two wrestlers in WCW to watch, it's these two. Like they're not bad wrestlers, but they're just not exciting. Like, they don't bring anything. And, like, I said this to you before we started airing, that Nash's jackknife powerbomb is always the most sketchiest thing to watch him try and do, especially to big guys like, for instance, Giant, or anyone like Goldberg, or someone who's just got some weight behind them. So I can understand totally why Goldberg doesn't want to take that move, because he very rarely manages to pull it off successfully. And, yeah, this is just a complete hodgepodge. The fact that we get do you know what the actual best part of this match was someone in the crowd had a sign that said Goldberg fears Gilberg, and I was like, that's how impressed I was by this match, because it was honestly, dude, Goldberg comes out and you think, oh, this is it, this is where this match is really gonna go and get really heated up and fired up, and it just doesn't go anywhere, and you're like, oh, okay then. And then you obviously get that whole kerfuffle with Goldberg and even Nash. You look at the thing that the way that the camera is panned on Nash's face, and he's like, "What the f?" And Goldberg just gets up and walks out, and you're like, "What is going on here, man?" And then obviously they don't blur it out on the network either. He tells Russo, he goes "F you," and it just walks out. It's, dude, just what a complete shit show. Like, yeah. I don't think I've seen anything as bad. Like, I knew this show was bad, but my God, this is awful.
Is this, I mean, is it the worst thing on the show?
I think it's the worst produced thing on the show. I don't think it's the worst thing on the show. Like that Hancock Major Guns is awful. Like, it's from a wrestling perspective, it's an awful wrestling match. It's an awful story angle. I just think this is, like, don't get me wrong, like I said, Steiner and Nash aren't bad wrestlers. They're just boring to watch. So you take Goldberg out of the equation, and let's be honest, Goldberg isn't the most exciting guys. He's very John Cena. He very much has 3 or 4 moves, and that's him done. That's his caliber. He doesn't really wrestle longer than most matches, more than 2 minutes. So you should get him trying to do, I think, what was this, like a 10-minute match? Again, a very limited moveset. So you've got 3 big guys that I think ultimately would have put on a really boring match. Don't get me wrong, at the time, this is probably like the reason why you've gone to this show is to watch this. But 25 years later, man, I couldn't think of nothing more boring I would hate to watch than these 3 wrestle.
And you said you wouldn't do it for $1 million in future.
It just bores me. And it's like, if you've got someone like Nash, who obviously at this point as well, like, he's so, like, just the way WCW was run at the time, you can just tell the mentality in the business. And it's like, why should I waste my time watching someone when they're doing it for all the wrong reasons? Like, I can simply, do you know what I mean? I can easily just rewind the video, go back to the start, and watch them 6 guys put on that killer ladder match again. Why should I waste my time watching this stuff when clearly, like, even Nash has said before the match, I only care about getting paid?
It's true. But I should note, we got you to watch this match this time for free, just so people will know out there. But if you want to stick the invoice through, feel free to. I can't remember if I asked star rating for this match.
You didn't. I do this honestly. This is a -2 for me. Like, just the way that Goldberg just walks off and no sells, it just sets the absolute bar for me with this match.
Yeah, this has to go into the minus category for me as well. I genuinely think this could be one of the worst matches we've ever covered on here. I'm going to go with a minus. Going to go with a -4. Genuinely going with a -4 because just from start to finish, this is horrific. This is bad. Yeah, there's nothing positive to say. Like, they want to blur the lines, but what for? It hurts everything involved in this. They've made Goldberg look terrible. No, they don't. They make Goldberg look terrible in this. You know, if that's the case, don't have him come out. I don't know what the politics are of yes or no in this, but don't have him come out if you're going to do that, because the fact is, it's just, or don't have him be in the pinfall decision. He'd be the one that's on the side. Don't have him walk out like that. I know it's meant to be controversial, but it just doesn't make any sense at all. Steiner and Nash, like you said, wasn't entertaining. So yeah, all in all, not very good. But Dave's rating. For the 4th match in a row, a dud.
Wow.
So in conclusion, I don't blame him.
Blame him.
In conclusion on this show, 5 duds, a -2 star rating. So 6 matches were either nothing or below. There are 11 matches on this show. So more than half of the show he would have deemed not worth your time. So, yeah. We appreciate everyone's giving their time to us though today so far. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button if you enjoy the format of how we're trying to show you a bit of the action as well. We really do appreciate the extra like on there. And do subscribe if you are new here. And shout out to Bobby, who's in the house. Bobby, hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Several players mentioned about how the Perfect Event became a 4-man group. They did indeed the Natural Born Thrillers with Mike Sanders, and we've got Reno in the group as well. There was one other that skips my brain at the moment. It was a 7-piece group that started off, and then they did have their sort of twists and turns as the months went on. Roger said, did you like Booker T doing the spinner Rooney? Absolutely. What about yourself?
No. No. It causes a ref bump. No. Oh, did you mean in general? Yeah, it's okay. In this show, no.
Yeah, in this show, in this show, it didn't go the way it was meant to. But yeah, although we say it wasn't meant to go well. What are our thoughts on Kevin Nash? And Steve, I'll start with you.
as a person, I'm not going to rate him as a person. I'm going to rate him as a wrestler, and I think that his ethics when it came to wrestling, I think if you look at him very early in his WWF days, you can trust me, he has great matches. I've actually seen matches where Kevin Nash runs the ropes, and I was in shock. So they do exist. I've seen them. They're on the network. I've watched it. But you can just tell that when he goes to WCW, his love for the business is just like, to put it in modern terms, it's like anyone going to the Saudi Arabian League or the Chinese Super League a couple of years ago. You go in there for a payday. The quality isn't going to be as good. And do you know what I mean? It sums it all up. You're going there for a payday, essentially.
I think you've summed that up pretty darn well, because it kind of sums up quite nicely, because, you know, with the NWO, you can see there just seems to be a lack of careness with Nash. And even when you see like the documentaries when it comes to, you know, the Who Killed WCW, he kind of feels like, well, I got paid, so I don't care. Like there is that vibe there, and it was all about the money.
That's the mentality of it.
Yeah, so there is that there. But Nash did have a good mind for the business. Like you say, there's some good matches that are in his career as well. And obviously he's part of one of the most, if not the biggest stable in wrestling history. So you can turn around and say that, you know, there are some good things. And we got even asked if he was a good bodyguard for Shawn Michaels. Absolutely. He was a very good bodyguard for Shawn Michaels back in the day. So yeah, I mean, there are some pros, but unfortunately there are some cons as well. It's just, I suppose, a part of what the WCW story entails. Temple says Nonstorm, I think, was the US Cruiserweight and Hardcore Champion at the point. I think he named himself the Canadian Heavyweight Champion. He did indeed. He was a Triple Crown during this show. And when did WCW break kayfabe on air in front of the fans? They'd actually done it before this. I think Bash at the Beach was the show before this, and that was the infamous finger poke of doom of when Hogan was to pin Jeff Jarrett, and then Russo had the big spiel on like how Hogan will never see him again, wanted to play his creative control card. We then crowned a new champion, which was actually going to be Booker T over Jeff Jarrett in the main event of that show. So they had broken kayfabe before with this and explaining all the rules and stuff. So this wasn't the first, but to go on and do it again after people say it was a big mistake the last time, he went to go on and do it again. Temple says, you thought this pay-per-view was bad. The following on at Fall Brawl 2000 was bad. First blood, chain match, scaffold match, caged heat match, booked by Vince Russo, of course. Yeah, there is some crazy stuff in the year 2000. This is just one of many you can enjoy in a nice little bubble. Roger says, is Goldberg a legend? Absolutely, yeah, he's definitely a legend. Certainly for the streak in WCW alone.
Absolutely, yeah. The fantasized booking, yeah. But dude, he was, like I said, he was WCW's answer to Austin in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? And he has that level of, do you know what I mean? That aura around him that he was the guy for WCW back in the 90s.
Absolutely, and he still is a legend. It's just the fact he's had some horrible booking decisions when he decided to make a return in the late 2010s. That's pretty much what it boils down to. And probably he's actually said in an interview with Chris Van Vliet that actually for a long period of time during that he actually was injured as well. So he was doing matches hurt as well. So I don't know if that obviously made some impact on his performances, but how much much it affected him, we'll never well and truly know. A number of matches weren't great, it felt. So yeah, I mean, for me, I've always said that he said Goldberg's a speed merchant. He's great to have 4 or 5 moves in the match, explode and go. If he's in there for 15-20 minutes, a Goldberg match was hardly ever good. The only one I can think of that I would say actually was still good was the DDP match, Halloween Havoc 98.
That's a fair point. I'd say the same. I don't recall any Goldberg matches that last longer than about 2 minutes being any good. Prime example is one against Brock Lesnar where he squashes him in like a minute and a half or whatever it is. Like, fantastic match.
Apparently that was Brock Lesnar's call as well when they did that Survivor Series 2016.
It's a great call.
A great call indeed. Great mind for the business. Roger says, I always wanted to be like my idol Hulk Hogan when I was a kid. There you go. We're going to move on then to the main event, and that was for the WWE World Championship was Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett. And if you like overbooked messes, we're in for a treat with this one, I can tell you, because yes, Booker T does a drop kick off the top rope. It triggers his injured knee. Why would you do a drop kick off the top rope if you've got an injured knee? Anyway, Booker gets a good moment when he can hop up the buckle. He gets a sunset flip to get a roll up on Jeff Jarrett for a 2 count. Booker attempts the Harlem sidekick, but after a spinneroonie attempt, he catches the referee in the eye on the way up, and he almost jumps into the referee as well, for those that are wondering. Booker does another Harlem sidekick, but actually Jeff Jarrett hits his leg with a guitar. Jeff then applies a figure 4 leg lock. Booker gets to the ropes and is hanging out of the ring with the move still applied. The ref counts where he was going to give a DQ for Jeff then, but of course he then eventually breaks the hold. Jeff Jarrett then, with the championship title, goes on the outside, looks to hit Booker T, but instead hits the referee instead. Booker hits the booking on Jeff from the apron to the floor through a table. We get another new referee. At this point then, we see Jeff Jarrett hitting the ropes, low blowing Booker T, and when he actually thinks the Booker is grabbing him from behind, it's actually the referee. Jeff allows him with a steel chair. At this point, with that steel chair, Jeff Jarrett hits the stroke on Booker T onto that standing chair. We get Charles Robinson come in, and it's a 2 count, and then leads us then to a finale of this match with a great 2-3 with shattered guitar all over the ring. This match here, one of the longer matches on the show. In fact, I believe is the longest match on the show at 14.5 minutes. What were your thoughts of Booker T versus Jeff Jarrett?
Like you said, very overbooked. I actually didn't mind this. I think it was a bit obviously hectic in places, but like after watching all the crap that we've just had before, this was almost a breath of fresh air. Although I do have to make a point of it. This match possibly has the worst neck breaker you'll ever see in your life. Because Booker T turns and Jeff Jarrett spins the complete opposite direction to where he's supposed to go. And I'm like, well, that was a complete shit show, wasn't it? Yeah, like I said, it's just a breath of fresh air, honestly, after everything we just watched in between. The ref bump from a spinner Rooney I just thought was stupid. Bearing in mind, we just had Tori Wilson like a few matches ago have someone run into her and she doesn't run off the apron. So I would have wanted to see. And what was the point anyway? If you're just going to have Jeff hit him with a belt anyway, it's kind of like it didn't. Just obviously, why are you hitting the ref with so many ref bumps? You only needed one, really. It could have been the right one instead of that one. But yeah, dude, it is what it is. It's like it's a good finish to a very shoddy show. Just it's not great, but it's probably the best finish you could have got.
Yeah, it's bearable. If you consider everything you've watched and we've discussed for quite a while, this match actually is fine. I think that's the best way to put it. It's fine, but because it's fine on this show, it feels like it's good. It's one of the highlights of this show. It's not going to be, well, it'll probably be my top 3 rated matches of the show, but it's not going to be the highest rated match. I'm going to give it a 2.75 rating. But I do think this match is... Yeah, I think it's a fun enough watch for everybody. And I think it's the right result as well. Booker T had won the world title. They're then putting the faith in him. He's beat Jeff Jarrett twice, someone who'd been world champion a number of times already in the year 2000 in WCW. So it was a way of helping solidify that new star who'd won the title at Bash in the Beach, caught Jeff Jarrett in a way off guard. So the fact is that here, they're the proper match here for the title. Booker T retains. Made all the sense in the world.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like there was always a worry with Jeff Jarrett, like especially when you got Russo in charge. Like we saw specifically after WCW as well, like Jeff when he was part of GFW or whatever it is, Global Force Wrestling.
Yes, and
he just booked himself as the champion constantly, and it was kind of like it always gives me worries when I see Jeff Jarrett in the title scene because it's kind of like, is he going to win this one through through self booking? Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you'd learn from others in WCW during that end period. But yeah, I mean, all in all, this one wasn't too bad. We give our star rating. Dave Meltzer's give this a 3-star rating. The row of duds is finished. He gave a higher rating for the final match. So we'll go to a couple of comments quickly before we give our final ratings of the show. CD said he's not a fan of when things are overbooking, but if it makes sense, then he's fine with it. And Temple saying that Greed was the final ever pay-per-view in March 2001 for WCW, which is very true indeed. A couple of weeks before the sell to WWE. So we get to do our fun little thing that we like to do for most of these ones. So first and foremost, your OMG moment of the night.
I watched the whole thing. Honestly, dude, I couldn't think of anything of the show that I was like, oh my god, that's amazing or whatever. Like, otherwise it would have been like Bill DeMott reversing a Bronco Buster with his foot and seeing Rey Mysterio getting a crotch shot. Do you know what I mean? I think the biggest OMG was I managed to watch the entirety of the show. Because honestly, when it got to the Vampiro Muta versus KroniK, I was tapped out. I was like, bruh, I really should turn this off and have a break, but I just carried on watching it for the sake of watching it.
My OMG moment of the night is actually in the reverse way of it. It's like, oh my god, how bad is this? It is going to be Goldberg walking out, and then them literally just saying the script is ripped. It's just commentary saying the script. It's just like, oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? Didn't make sense for me.
We even forgot to mention that Shivani, before the main event, turns around and goes, and the next match, your main event, will be for the WCW World Tag Team Championships. I think you got that wrong somewhere, Shivani.
Thankfully, he's improved. But match of the night for you.
Lance Storm, Mike Awesome, the greatest match in WCW history.
I'm going with the ladder match, the open. If you were here at the start of the video, you knew it was going downhill as it was my match of the night. So yeah, ladder match for me does take the one. Entrance of the night. I don't know if this works as well.
Judy Bagwell. She comes in on a forklift.
Oh, Judy. Come on. Let's find it one more time. There she is. Come on, Judy. Fault for doing that. What a sport. You can say it what we want of like how bad of an angle and wrestling is. The fact that she was willing to stand up there and just be a part of a ridiculous angle deserves a lot of applause really for that. But MVP of the night, I think, also has to go to Judy Bagwell for that reason.
You're right. It should have been Judy, but I went with KroniK just because they wrestled twice. That was my one logical booking.
Fair enough there. A great Muta, would he get the shout for the same thing or?
Yeah, possibly. I'd be honest with you, I didn't even think of Muta. So yeah, I'll throw Muta in there as well with KroniK.
Fair play to that. And then out of 10, your final rating of WCW New Blood Rising.
It's a good thing it's not the metric system. 1, 2, a 3 out of 10 for me.
3 out of 10.
And that's for the 3 matches I liked out of the whole show.
Do you know what? I don't want to give the same answer as you because it kind of makes me feel like he just goes along what he's saying, but I feel like it's kind of right because the one thing I will say, I'm even tempted to say 4 because this is it's a very bad show. But one thing I always say about WCW 2000, and this is just an opinion of mine that I think depends on how you like your wrestling. It's not boring. It's not boring. Like I even though it's bad and a lot of things don't make sense, you do sit there and go. It has talking points. You're not watching the show and at the end of it going, well, you know, nothing really happened. There's a lot of filler on this show that didn't need to be there. We could have cut 4 or 5 matches out of this show and they just didn't need to be on pay-per-view, whether they were bad matches or just didn't make sense. Do you know what I mean? But all in all, I'm going to go with you with a 3 out of 10. It's probably a bit generous, but yeah, it's quite a bad show. Is it the worst WCW pay-per-view ever? Now, I know you've not seen all of them, so I know that I shouldn't really be asking you that question, but I would say this is possibly the worst one of the year 2000 for sure. But I do have 2 shows. Actually, I have one in 2000 that might top it. Super Brawl 2000. That is a show where there is another one of these pole obsessions. Tank Abbott was in the match with someone that he was in the army with. Apparently, he pulled a knife on the guy afterwards. Literally, it's on the network. Yeah.
Why have we not reviewed that? That sounds great.
We need the 25-year anniversary in February. We'll get there. But yeah, at the same time, and I think Slamboree 96, I will say, is one of the most boring watches I've ever had in my life. If you want the show to avoid, Slamboree 96 is horrific. It's basically mid-carders throughout the whole show. and not in a good way, because WCW was all about the main talent, not the mid card. So yeah, it was bad. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of me rambling. We'll go to our comments and then we'll get ready to wrap things up. See, this is not trying to be rude, but Jeff Jarrett booked himself to be a world champion 6 times in NWA when NWA was TNA. Very true indeed. He didn't own but he booked himself as world champion. I thought we did at one point though own GFW, but maybe I'm wrong with that.
I don't know. I'll have to have a look. I'm sure he was. Oh, just to add to it as well, I found this out as well. The Diesel match I was talking about, which was Nash when he was in WWF. Diesel and Shawn Michaels versus Razor Ramon and the 1-2-3 Kid for the WWF Tag Team Championships, October 30th, 1994 on WWE Action Zone. It's on there. It's a bit tricky to find it, but give it a good look. It's honestly the best Diesel match you'll probably see.
There you go. It's out there for a work to check out if you want to see it. Was it the worst pay-per-view of all time? I think there could be worse. It's up there. But December
I'm sure
to
there are
December
other shows out there that are worse.
ECW December to December is a thing, so it's hard to look past that. So yeah, that could be the worst one of all time. And a fun fact, CD, I love when you do the fun facts. This is a good fun fact as well to finish off the show today. Judy Bagwell is a former WCW Tag Team Champion. She is indeed with the one and only Mr. Rick Steiner. Got to say, power to Judy Bagwell, the late Judy Bagwell, definitely the MVP of this broadcast. But NX Steve, we have conducted this podcast for the last hour and 47 minutes on Canadian rules, and under section 37C4, that's the point of the show where I should turn around and say thank you for watching this show and reviewing it with me.
Dude, and do you know what I mean? My reply will be as Canadian as it can be. Thank you very much, but to be honest with you, it's all thanks to you for having me on the show.
I appreciate the kind words indeed. And I want to say as well, going to section 42.7, I want to say thank you to the chat as well. You've all kept us busy for this video. We've had a great time as well discussing New Blood Rising. We've had a good laugh, hopefully, this evening with us as well. But if you've enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well. And if you liked the little bit of clips as well and you want to see them more often, make sure to hit the like button because it's actually quite a lot of work to do it, so it really does help put a smile on the face. But thank you all for watching this video anyway. Look after yourselves and each other. There'll be more videos dropping this week on the channel. We'll try and come back and do another live review as well if the possibility allows. Look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you again very soon. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day.